Christian parenting.
Is technology out of control in your house? Are all these screens doing more harm than good? We're going to talk about it today on Family Vision.
Hi, my name is Lainey Rienow. Welcome to Family Vision with my parents, Dr. Rob and Amy Rienow, strengthening families through practical, encouraging, and real conversations.
Rob Rienow here with Visionary Family Ministries. Well, today we're going to talk about tech, gadgets, phones, screens, media, and this will be a multi-part conversation. So today is just a warm-up, some introductory thoughts, and in the coming weeks we will dig deeper. We'll dig deeper on warning signs for your kids, how to talk with your kids, particularly teenagers, about all this stuff. And we'll also talk about the tech side. You know, how do you set up boundaries and filters and monitoring and all of that? So today is just getting the engine started on what's a huge issue for every family these days. You know, my family as well. We're trying to navigate all of this. What does tech and media look like with a 20-year-old who's back and forth to college and with an 8-year-old on the other end? And backing up to the big picture, you know, I'm kind of a techie. I'm into gadgets. I'm a little bit of a geek, and I'm also old. I mean, I just had a birthday that, you know, that rhymes with nifty. And maybe some of you older parents, maybe some of you grew up watching Star Trek, or at least you remember the show. And it was, you know, mind-blowing technology in that show, totally futuristic. Captain Kirk could beam down to a planet, and he'd had a little thing that he could flip open, like this little communicator, just something in his hand, flip it open and punch a couple of buttons, and he could talk back to the people on the ship. It was like now everybody has a little thing in their hands with some buttons, and you could talk to anybody in the world. Or Uhura, again, I know, I'm sorry, Star Trek geeking on you here, but Uhura is in the control room, and she's holding up this computer screen that's like thin. It's almost like a piece of paper. She holds it up just in one hand. And oh my goodness, well, we have those now. That's an iPad. Uhura also, she had that little thing sticking out of her ear, and that was her communication headset. And she's talking to everybody all over the place with this little thing sticking out of her ear. Well, we have those now, Bluetooth headsets, and even on Star Trek, they could do a live conversation through video monitors, like a video phone call. And here we are, everybody in their pocket now can make a FaceTime call or a Skype call. All this stuff our kids are growing up with technology that when I was growing up was completely science fiction. And now it's real, and even little kids have it in their pocket. Or I think about driving around when I was a teenager or college student and getting lost. Couldn't figure out where I was. Maybe I was on a trip. Well, option one, maybe I pull a map out of my glove compartment. Maybe, probably not. I'm going to have to stop somewhere at a gas station or a store, and I'm going to have to ask directions. And if they don't know, I've got to use this thing called a pay phone. I got to put money in it to call someone and find out where I am. If you've never told your kids about technology when you were little, you really should. It's a super fun conversation. Explain to them how maps worked. I was even on a trip recently with my boys. We were driving back from a trip out in Pennsylvania, and I had one of those big atlases, you know, U.S. map atlases, the book with the map of each state on every page. And I gave it to them, and I said, all right, I want you guys to kind of follow along where we were. They were fascinated that on this paper thing, they could actually track along with where they were. Now, the problem is all this tech is supposed to make us more intelligent, right? It's supposed to give us more information and let us do more, but it has pretty serious effects on the brain. The map part of my brain, where I used to keep maps, is completely shut off now. It's completely dormant. I'll be driving around town, and I'll put my destination into Google Maps, into my phone. It's not that I don't know how to get there. It's just that I kind of like having it on and having, I use the British voice guy to tell me where I'm supposed to go. And if there's traffic or things, I like to hear about that too. But the navigational part of my map completely shut down. Or talk to your kids about what you had to do when you were little. If you wanted to send someone a written message, okay, you want to send words to another person. What did you have to do? Well, you had to have a pen and paper and or a typewriter. You had to put it in an envelope with a stamp and put it in the mail, and a week later they would get it. And I know we had, telegrams and things like that. But all this great new tech, changing our brains, changing the way we communicate, changing how we relate, giving us access to the world of information, which is a lot of blessing, but it's also access to a world of pure evil and addiction and perversion and everything in between. So we're going to get this conversation started. Again, this is going to be multiple episodes. Today is, I guess we could call this introductory scattered thoughts on tech. But before we talk so quickly about helping our kids navigate this challenging world of technology, I think we need to talk about ourselves a little bit. That a healthy family's relationship with technology starts with parents. We're going to need a whole lot more than, okay, kids, shut your phones off. This is all of us. We can't lead our kids in a direction we're not going in ourselves. Now, what do I mean here? I'm sure I've shared this story with you before, but maybe you have a child and, we're on them. Hey, why are you always walking around with your phone? Why are you always walking around with your phone? Well, I had a situation with Rush. Rush is now 8, but he was 2. And I was holding Rush and walking around the house. So I've got him in my right arm. And in my left hand, I had my phone. And I was checking my email and checking news and checking sports and whatever. And Rush is trying to talk to me. So my 2-year-old, he's like, hey, Daddy, this. And hey, Daddy, hey, Daddy, hey, Daddy, what about this? What about this? And I'm saying, yeah, uh-huh, yeah, uh-huh, yeah, uh-huh, because I'm checking my phone. So Rush reaches his hand across my face, grabs my cheek on the far side of where he is, pulls my face in his direction, looks at me straight in the eyes, and says, Daddy, look at my eyes when I'm talking to you. Oh my goodness, where has he heard that before, right? Obviously, Mom and I have said that to him before, but here I was doing the same thing to him. So my little 2-year-old's trying to talk to me. I am not giving him the time of day. I am treating him with such disrespect. Why? Because I'm lost in my screen and lost in my phone. So we need to navigate some of this stuff as parents, as adults. Do you have to take out your phone every time it beeps or buzzes? Oh, wait, hang on a second. Let me see who this is. Now, I'm struggling here, and I'm learning, and you may be different. But if my phone is on me, I'm probably going to be looking at it every few minutes. So I need that thing away from me, in another room, in a drawer, or leave it in the car when I come home from work. If my kids don't ever see me physically separated from that thing, why should I expect them to ever be separated from their phone? There's so much we could talk about here. It's not just about phones. It's also about media and our media consumption. Think about your DVD library. Okay, you've got a stack of DVDs in a cabinet. You don't have a DVD player anymore, but you got a stack of DVDs in the cabinet. If we were to do a scan of those titles, or your 10-year-old were to go in and scan those titles, are those movies honoring to God? Would I be proud to watch these movies with my kids? Now, you probably know Philippians 4:8. Finally, brothers, whatever's true, whatever's honorable, whatever's just, whatever's pure, whatever's lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Is that scripture on your mind as it relates to you and media, you and movies, you and TV, you and music? I heard a pastor, my pastor of my home church where I grew up, Jay Abramson, he, real quick, just to help you memorize this verse or remember this verse, he says, you always want to take a turnip leap, TRNPLEAP, turnip leap. True, right, noble, pure, lovely, excellent, admirable, praiseworthy. Got that? You need to take a turnip leap, TRNP Did I get that right? Yeah, L-E-A-P. Okay. How about this? Let's get into the 21st century. All right, nobody watches DVDs anymore. So let's look at our recently watched queue on Netflix or Amazon Prime. What's in your recently watched queue on Netflix or Amazon Prime? It says a lot about our hearts. When our kids open up Netflix, that's what they see. If they open up Amazon Prime, that's what they see. I had a parent say, oh, Rob, well, don't worry. I go in and delete my recently watched stuff so my kids don't see it. Oh, well, that's great. So now we're watching stuff that may not be that honoring to God, and we don't want our kids to know about it, so we're hiding it. I think that's 2 strikes instead of 1, but maybe I'm missing something. Here's another one. We can't lead our kids in a direction we're not going in ourselves when it comes to our conscience. Do your kids ever see your conscience on display? What I mean by that is, do your kids ever see you shut something off that isn't pleasing to God and you don't want to watch it anymore? And here's the classic example. I think every parent has experienced this, and we actually keep making the same mistake over and over again. We're looking for something to watch as a family. So we're scrolling Amazon, we're scrolling Netflix, we're scrolling Apple or whatever, and up comes a movie that you watched when you were a kid, and it's PG. And you say, wow, I remember watching that movie when I was a kid. That was an awesome movie. That was like a good family movie. We watched that. I don't think there was any garbage in there. So the kid's like, oh, we're really going to watch this old movie. Yeah. It's going to be great. Trust me, it's going to be awesome. Well, you play this PG movie from the 80s or this PG-13 movie from the 90s, and in the first 5 minutes, something rather disturbing comes up on the screen, and you're like, whoa, I didn't remember that. And here's this question. Do you just keep it going? Do you cram that conviction of the Holy Spirit that maybe you chose something that isn't going to be healthy for the family to watch? Or do you say, hey, you know what, guys, let's turn this off. I made a mistake. I obviously forgot some things in this that are not going to be pleasing to God, not good for our family to watch. It's not even going to be fun for me to watch. So let's shut it off. Let's pick something else. I'm sorry. Do your kids ever see you doing that? Well, let me ask this way. Do you ever want your kids to do that? Do you ever want them to maybe choose a show to watch that looks fine, and maybe 10 minutes into the show or the movie, a theme or a subject matter comes on that they're convicted about? Do you want them to be the kind of person who shuts it off and says, I'm not going to watch that? I want my kids to be like that. Well, they need to see us doing it. Now, we're going to continue this conversation in a couple upcoming episodes. We're going to talk practically about how to get the best out of tech and leave the junk and the unhealthy stuff behind. But I wanted to leave this with you as it relates to paying attention to how addicting these screens are for us and for our kids. I listened to an interview recently with Dr. Anna Lemke. I'm not sure I'm saying that right. It's Lembke. And I heard her interview on the Designed to Heal podcast. In fact, Amy and I are going to be guests on that podcast in the coming weeks, and we'll share that podcast episode with you. But Dr. Lemke is the head of addiction science at Stanford. And she kind of talked about Addiction 101. What is addiction and how does it come to be in our brains? And specifically, she talked about screens and phones and basically explained that when you look at this screen, not only are the lights, and the actual images getting your brain to fire off dopamine to activate this dopamine hormone, which is kind of the pleasure hormone in your brain, and it activates those pleasure centers. But other things might happen on your phone. Maybe someone likes your social media post. Will you get a hit of dopamine in the pleasure center for that? Or you watch a movie that excites your dopamine centers. But having, or that email or that text comes in, someone's thinking about me, you complete some reservation, you buy a ticket, all those things on that phone are firing off those pleasure hormones, those dopamine hormones, and activating the pleasure centers of your brain. And she explained, and this was super fascinating, and it's really basic, but I think it's easy for us to forget. She said, here's the way the brain works. The brain becomes dependent on the external source to fire the pleasure centers. to drive the pleasure center. So your brain learns, you want to feel happy, right? And your brain learns that very regularly throughout the day, it is going to get a hit of this dopamine hormone because you're going to look at your phone. And the brain learns it does not have to keep making its own dopamine and its own pleasure hormones because the source of those are going to come from outside now, not inside. So the more you get the hit from the outside source, the less your brain makes its own pleasure center hormones. So that's why you get a kid who seems to be completely bored unless they have a screen. Hey, do you want to go outside and play with your friends? No. Can I play video games? Hey, do you want to go get ice cream? No, it's fine. Can I have my phone back? Can I watch TV? That it seems like the only thing that peps them up is having this screen. Something I've said over many years is I learned I can solve any behavior problem with any child in 5 seconds. And of course, parents perk up. Oh my goodness, you can solve any behavior problem in any child in 5 seconds? Yeah, absolutely. I can give my kid an iPad. And whatever bad behavior I was dealing with is going to go away, I promise, because they are going to get sucked into the pleasure centers that are going to get activated in their brain from that iPad. So part of what we've got to navigate as parents is paying real attention to this addictive cycle, recognizing that these gizmos are actually designed by the manufacturers to create addiction, right? So that we continually go to get them for those hits. And what's happening, it's actually changing some of our brain chemistry so that we become dependent on the exterior stimulus for firing those pleasure centers. So again, that was the November 2, 2020 episode on Designed to Heal, interview with Dr. Anna Lemke. And it was very thought-provoking, convicting at the same time. I think you'd enjoy listening to it. Okay, so we have just scratched the surface here. We're going to continue this conversation. We'd love to hear from you as we unfold these future episodes on this. Maybe you've got a real specific question about tech in your family. Send it to us. Podcast@visionaryfam.com. Podcast@visionaryfam.com. If you have never taken a quick moment to give our podcast a rating, and we hope it would be a great rating, take a minute and do that right now. Whatever podcast service that you use, you don't have to type out some long review. You can just click that star rating. And when you do that, it helps other people discover the podcast. It helps other people, more and more people, get hope and help for their family from God's Word through Family Vision. So thank you, as always, for taking this time. Our relationship with you means the world to us, and we look forward to our next time together on Family Vision.